bid farewell to Darshan. Always awesome to have him on the broadcast. And Magical, that's how music writing is done. I know your song was great, okay? I'm not taking away. I'm
going to take away from your songwriting because your songwriting was ass. His songwriting was good.
Yes, that's fine. I'm not taking credit, okay? I'm not taking any of this. That was Darshan right there. All I do is I put on silly costumes and then have no talent. So let's talk about players that do have talent because we have one more match ahead of us today with TSM versus Golden Guardians to close out the summer split. And hey, there are still stakes in this match. Every single match on our stream had some kind of standings implications. And even though it's the 9th and 10th place teams, this match is no different, Joshi.
It is going to be the banger, potentially the fiesta to end it all. Remember, this is the last series in all of the Academy regular season, and they are fighting for a 9th and 10th place slot. Because Golden Guardians are currently in 10th, they do need to 2-0 this series. But if they do that, they can take down TSM. And then there's also that whole thing of like, do you really want to play Maryville as your first opponent running into the actual proving grounds? So there's definitely an opportunity for both teams to try and jockey for the position they'd prefer to be in.
It's an interesting position for both of these teams. Golden Guardians especially, because I feel like they have so much potential. They're currently in last place. They're 1 game behind, or rather 2 games behind TSM, so they will need the 2-0 this one. But it feels like Golden Guardians have in the recent weeks actually been improving and increasing their level of play. So let's take a look at the roster head-to-head, Magical, as we start talking now about Golden Guardians Academy and maybe the expectations of this team coming into the week.
Well, I mean, when we look at Golden Guardians, they have been improving substantially now that Leader is a part of the team and actually getting scrims with everybody. You can see how well each one of the components is working. Concept has looked really good in the past couple weeks. Prismal, you just look at this week alone and you'd think he's the best support in the league with how great his Tahm Kench has been. Ray has been able to step up now that we get more of the hyperscaling or traditional marksman. Leader, he's been a terror on pretty much any kind of game we've had where a lot of people have to kind of focus on him, especially if he gets his melee carries. And Acadian, just the leader, the one calling the shots and telling everyone what they need to do.
And ultimately, in the second round robin, they have taken games off of Team Liquid, 100 Thieves, and CLG. These were our top 4 teams going into the second round robin. They were all looking fantastic, and Golden Guardians were able to take games off of every single one of them. So, with the surge that they've had, one of the players that their coach Swiper, who's been working for LCS and has been recently helping out, has been saying, yeah, we can attribute almost all of our recent success to how well Leader has been coming in. And so impactful, not only in the gameplay, but also in places like VOD review.
I want to clarify that Leader last week, our first look at him, he didn't have any scrim time with the team. He arrived, got thrown in, he just started playing, and he still looked decent. He still looked all right. And then this week now, Leader, I agree with the sentiment, or at least that statement makes sense based on what we've seen on the Rift. It feels like Leader's given a lot more direction to this team. And I think it's really cool for players developing in their careers, players like Concept to actually get an opportunity to play with, and players like Array, and then they get to, you know, see what this level of play looks like. But
I don't want all the credit to just go to Leader. The whole team itself has been performing far better. Like, with or without Leader, I've seen such more marked improvement from this roster, even before he came in. Even in that super week that was right after the break, sure, I think they went 1-5 in that week. But each game,
that one was Team Liquid.
But one of them was Team Liquid, and the other games were well fought. It's not like they just rolled over and ended up losing, you know, in a pathetic manner. They actually fought, especially looking at Concept, especially looking at Prismal, how these players have really grown into their own, and even further. Like, me and Cuppy were talking about it with Concept, how we always know him for, like, the crazy pick, the Mundos, the Singe, the Urgots. He's been putting so much time onto Gnar in CQs that people are literally just permanently banning it against him now.
I think there's a lot more firepower in Golden Guardians Academy than maybe we gave them credit for, given a lot of the roster changes that have happened to them throughout the split. Their opponents, though, Evil Geniuses Academy, and specifically one player that we wanted to highlight in Anda, a newer member added to the roster, and or rather Golden Guardians, you're right, yeah. Little
there,
slip
we'll
there.
get there.
And it was on Evil Geniuses at one point, but
Yes.
the new addition to Golden Guardians here, again, looking pretty good. And when we look back at Anda's performances historically, very strong individual player.
No, and it was on Immortals. It was Immortals he was on. Right?
We're splitting hairs. Let's go back to praising him.
Okay, yeah, let's go back to
He's been looking so good. He's been the Dark Knight for TSM, right? Not the hero they maybe deserve, but definitely the one that they've been needing, consistently looking to make things happen across every single game that he has been coming in. And he's definitely one of these players that we keep talking about this former Proving Grounds champion, consistently a strong performer in the academy scene, and I've always just been surprised that he hasn't found himself a more permanent home like Armeo has.
I'm surprised by it too, but we are really seeing him resurge in his career, right? You can't just win Proving Grounds as an amateur team on an amateur team and not get a lot of credit for it. We saw him briefly in academy, then back into amateur for this spring split, now back in academy, and we've seen how well he controls the jungle for TSM. It's a far better look for TSM because it really builds up people like Takeover or Soul.
And now let's take a look at the opposite side of the rift at Golden Guardians and who we expect to be stepping up to the plate in this series. Because one player that we have been noticing standing out as of late as well, Array. Look at this AD carry really starting to shine right now in this part of the split, Yoshi.
Definitely been looking quite a bit better. He's been trying to find his opportunities to play, and I feel as though the tribulations that Golden Guardians have had so far have kind of forced him to try and make bigger plays than he would before. He was definitely a decent teamfight AD carry, but now, just like Spawn before him, starting to be a bit more aggressive during a lot of these fights.
And with that said, between these two players, I know that it's the 9th versus 10th place teams, but there is standings implications on the line. And to give this match a little bit more weight as well, Magical, I know that you're subbing in here for Rafa, but he and I made a bet, and I've heard that you're going to honor that bet as well.
I will.
Because between the two players,
For the sake of Rafa, I will.
between Array and Anda, two players on opposite sides of the rift, who will get more kill participation, kills and assists added up? Is it a ray of hope for Golden Guardians?
I didn't
And
know it was
another
kills and assists.
for
I thought it was
TSM.
just kills because I'm like, I got a Ray.
Kills and assists.
Nice segue at the end.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I got a Ray. I think a Ray is just
You're
someone.
taking Array.
I'm gonna take a Ray still. That even if it's the kills and assists, because I think Anda's gonna put up a great KP. But Array has been this player that there's a reason why I was talking about how every one of the players has really got this glow up going on for Golden Guardians. Array is one of those players. We've seen just in this week how well he's been able to perform, especially now that you get these more traditional marksmen or even Aphelios. If you give him Aphelios, it's pretty much done and dusted.
Well, you're a fool, Magical. I'm going with Anda, of course, because you're right. He was on Immortals. You know where else he was?
No work.
FlyQuest Academy, 100 Thieves Academy, Evil Geniuses Academy. I was right. He was on the team at one point. That's where the Freudian slip
What year?
came in from. January 2020 to November 2020. You don't remember the run? You don't remember it? Can't believe you, Magical. But with that said, I'm here. The pick fan is ready. We'll keep track of the bet for game number 1. Who gets more kills and assists throughout Magical? And Joshi, take it away.
All right, there we go. I feel like I have to keep you guys separated right now. Suddenly I have to become the father figure. You gotta keep these guys in line.
This is where I'm gonna ask production, just during our break, make sure you play the song me and Eric made, just to spite Steve, just to be like, yeah, no, Magical's a better songwriter than Steve is.
Yeah. How long did that take you again, Alex?
So in this game, we see that it took me a while. I'll be honest.
It took a while.
It took me a while. It took a couple weeks where I was supposed to have this done a long time ago. That is definitely on me. But it got released.
Okay, that's writer's block. That's what happens when you're being forced to be creative, right? But now TSM coming through, going up against Golden Guardians. Remember, Golden Guardians need to win both of these games in order to lock up that 9th place spot, have an opportunity to play up against Maryville going forward. And with Anda and Array, kind of the two heroes that we've already set up between these guys, I'm kind of leaning towards Anda as well. He's been kind of my hero every single time I've been looking at this TSM Academy roster, right? Takeover has been having some games. Tactical and Mia have moments of brilliance. Soul has been looking way more aggressive now, and Surdy even credits him finding all-in angles that most other players won't. Now, TSM Academy, they're going right on back to Takeover's best champion.
Right back over to Silas for Takeover. I argue that he is the best Silas we have in Academy, but it could still be flexed. Gnar is open, and it is a good pick. We've seen Concept play a lot of that Gnar, so if Soul wants to try to see if he can really take that Force top lane, it's a Sylas matchup that always tends to win out.
Yeah. And so now Golden Guardians, just as you were talking about, as the return to the more traditional marksman is starting to take place, Array has been loving this meta. He's been looking way better overall from everything that we've been seeing. But Golden Guardians as a whole, one of the things that I feel has been solved for them with the introduction of Leader is I was constantly saying that it feels as though Golden Guardians are taking half measures. They're constantly starting up plays but not committing to them, and Nicadia was kind of at the forefront of that. But now it feels as though he has more trust in his teammates, and he's more willing to actually go the entire way and actually commit to a lot of these plays.
Doesn't look as timid as we had seen. We had both been critical of Acadian previously with how timid it seemed he was in some of those fights. And you're right. It does not look like it's the same player from before. He looks more dominant and more confident with making these plays. And with Viego, it's a good champion to do that with. And then on the other side, Gnar is taken away by Soul. It's not going to be that flex, so it will be takeover on his best performing champion.
And it's going to be Soul going right on back to the Gnar. We've seen him pick the Gwen into this a couple of times. You know, got a little burned in that moment, but TSM already looking to pick up their entire top half of the map. Some great power picks, some good blinds also from TSM. They are very confident that they are going to win or lose the game in the top half of the map, and maybe Array won't be able to participate as much as he's hoping.
Trundle is also a good pick into both Jinx and into Viego, just because you can't stop Jinx from being able to escape, plus the skirmishing potential you have from Trundle. We talked about this earlier today. And so you have a lot of power in that top lane. Even if it's all blind, I feel like this is a good draft for TSM Academy. But Leader, it's an Akali game. It looks like he's confident with that pick.
Yeah, and we just saw that this matchup is definitely something that Akali is very happy to play into, right? Copy was kind of getting pushed around a little bit based on the way that we saw Evil Genius's Saligo. But having opportunities to push around Copy and just take a lot of aggressive fights. Leader is a better Akali than Saligo, if I do say so myself. Leader consistently doing well in the European regional leagues and the EU Masters, and now bringing the same brand right on over to North America.
I would argue that Akali is Leader's best champion. That is the best performance he always puts up, is when he has his hands on Akali. And so going up against Takeover on his Sylas, that is a fun and must-watch matchup. With the Sylas, the pocket pick, the love pick by Takeover, and then Leader having his own, we got to now look at the second part of the draft. Xayah ban is a bit surprising, but the Zeri ban, not as surprising.
Yeah, I mean, Tactical and Nia played the Xayah Rakan yesterday. We're going for these 2v2 fights right off the bat, starting at level 1. And so Array and Prismal don't necessarily want to try and challenge that because Prismal is a role swap from AD carry to the support role. Not necessarily quite as familiar with his role just quite yet. And we do see
nice
that
man.
He's been very aggressive. He's been the biggest limit tester that Golden Guardians have had so far. And you know, that always means that sometimes you're going to look great like they did yesterday, but you also might look like trash other times. And Concept with the Jax coming through. I hear the O's.
I liked the ban on Tom Kench that came in from TSM. I expected that to be picked earlier by Golden Guardians because it has been Prismal's best champion he's played, but not getting that and then grabbing Jax, holding on to the counter pick for bot lane for Prismal. Since you already know what's in top lane, it's going to be Gnar. And Concept, he's been, like I said, he's been performing very, very well lately.
Yeah, and this is a skill matchup, right? It's not something that either side just gets to freely play. I obviously prefer playing the Gnar side because I'm a Gnar player, but I know a lot of Jax players who will just take the Jax into this matchup every single time because it's about which player is going to be better. Concept, massive champion pool. Soul finds all these crazy all-in angles, and TSM, they've picked a lot of brawling champions, but so have Golden Guardians. It's going to be some chaotic fighting.
That's why that Renata pick is so good for Mia. You have now the way to disengage the fight with everyone who wants to dive into the back line, try to see if they can fully engage. I know you were looking for something spicy, as was I, but Prismal is going to go on Lulu, which is also something that we tend to see paired up with Jinx when not with Tahm Kench.
Yeah, I just got to say, as an aside, if pros aren't playing Seraphine now, there is no buffs that Seraphine can ever receive that are going to make them play Seraphine. This champion has been broken for so long at this point. Golden Guardians, they hovered it. Prismal's like, do y'all want to go with this? Nah, let's give me the Lulu. I'm a bit more comfortable on that. Have a bit more opportunities to just give Array the buffs that he needs. Because when you have these chaotic fights, you find that first kill, Array suddenly starts popping off. So that's the play you're going to be looking at. The first kill for Array, the first takedown, or if Mia will be able to use the bailout to prevent that first death from happening.
I feel like this game will pretty much be solved within 5 minutes because how much snowballing potential you have from both sides. If you can get the resets for Golden Guardians, you have Viego and Jinx. We talked about this with Cloud9. They dropped it in both games, and in the second game, they got the resets to work out for them. They were able to snowball from there, but this time around, it's even more so with Leader on Akali, one of his best champions, going against Takeover on Sylas, another champion Takeover loves and loves to scale with.
Yeah, it could definitely be decided in the first 5 minutes if some of the lanes start going haywire, especially if it starts going in favor of Golden Guardians. But we'll have to find out. 5 minutes is not a lot of time for the game to decide.
That is very true, but we will see if I get all the action in the first 5 minutes, or if we just get action through the whole thing, which is what I'm hoping for. Let's get on to the Rift for our first game and our final series of the summer split. TSM Academy, Golden Guardians Academy, the battle for 9th.
And I was hoping, I must admit, Magical, we can go back to what we were talking about at the beginning of the day. Not as much chaos, not as much just for funning it, right?
I told you, I called it.
You know, everybody's taking it seriously. You got the standings to play for.
I expected
and
this.
And now, TSM, they want to try and defend their 9th place spot. And again, let's look at what is waiting for them coming out of the amateur scene. The 8th place team coming in from amateur is Maryville University, but the 10th place team is CLG Faith. And if you're not familiar with them, well, Maryville University still has players like Niles and Iconic on it, APA. They've been kind of having a bit of a tear, and they've done much better in the second circuit qualifier than the first one. But CLG Faith, that's where Rosethorn ended up, right? Rosethorn was one of the big parts of CLG's success earlier in the season.
And for both teams, I don't think it's any easier, 9th or 10th seed for TSM Academy or for Golden Guardians Academy, because the teams you're going to face off against, if you're the 10th seed, you'll face against Evil Genius's Prodigies. But if you're the 9th seed, then it's going to be Maryville University, the team that was able to take a game off of one of our academy teams in the last split.
Yeah. Now, I am just praying that we don't have TSM in last, because then we will have Mia versus Mia, and I don't really want to cast that, I'm going to be real.
Yeah, you know what? That's a fair point. That will be... Yeah. I'm already having a difficult enough time when it comes to Tomio and Tomo and Kumo.
Yeah, too many Mo's. But let's get back into the game as we do see a bit of skirmishing back and forth. Neither side has picked up level 2, but already Soul taking some, notes from the way that Darshan's are playing Nara, also starting a hop at level 1. And look at just the number of projectiles that are flying down the bottom lane.
Oh, yeah. It's from both sides. Glitterlance, you got the Boomerang Blade, Bouncing Blades, you got Zap, you got the Handshake, you got Rockets. What else? A lot of particles. Yeah, lots of particles.
I think you got almost everything. You know, Pix is flying around as well, but so far, we're halfway to your expectation of the game being decided in 5 minutes. And Golden Acadian.
Yes.
He was looking at the blue buff, and then he was like, nope.
He's looking for a die. No, he's looking for the gank bot lane. He's not going for that at all.
Gosh.
He's gone completely around that ward, and he won't be spotted by TSM. They have no idea. Now, Acadian showing his face, the flash coming in from Prismal, looking for the damage on to Tactical. Tactical is rooted and killed. Prismal takes first blood. Mia will survive, but won't be able to do anything further.
A huge play, a huge read coming out from Acadian that they won't be able to match him. And Anda now trying to control that, taking away the Scuttle Crab before Acadian can use his bottom lane priority. So Anda, I mean, he's 2 camps up in exchange for a kill. I'll definitely take the kill every single time.
See, this goes back into what we're talking about with Acadian. How he has leveled up in the split, feeling far more confident with this team. Saying, yeah, you know what? I'll sacrifice getting my blue buff now so we can commit for the side, and it works. Everyone was ready. Prismal flashing forward as well.
Yeah. And look at how quickly he moves around, right? Using the invisibility to avoid getting spotted out by the ward. This is a big play, and Golden Guardians immediately ready to commit to it. Heal, flash, ignite, tactical. Even with this flash up, not able to dodge away. Golden Guardians end up finding the first blood, gives it over to Prismal. Maybe not the best recipient, but still Golden Guardians denying.
First blood, man.
No.
First blood.
Yes.
You'll take it. It doesn't matter if Prismal gets it.
That's not the argument I thought you were going to make. Oh, there it is. There it is.
The philosophy is the supports get the kills, ADCs get the farm, but you know.
Yeah.
That's the argument you were waiting for.
Yeah, that's what I was waiting for. But Acadian now coming right back in towards the mid lane. Leader is trying to get this crash coming through, and Prismal will make him a bit safer. But I'm surprised this is not a great window for Prismal to be going for this roam unless they're trying to dive.
They are looking to commit for that. They've got Ignite on Leader, but it is risky still. Takeover's not that low, and trying to dive a Sylas is hard. So this leaves Array on an island. Array, can you pull off a miracle? Ignite is already there, flashing away, getting damage on Mia. He might take down one, yet he will! Turning around a bad situation and enforcing a 1-for-1.
Okay, good stuff coming out from Array to actually find the kill in the turnaround. A bad timing coming through, and Mia taking the turret shot after Array had actually died means that the bailout does nothing. But that's definitely a spot showing Prismal's inexperience in the support role, right? He goes in towards the mid lane while the wave is getting crashed. This is prime time for Golden Guardians to get dove. And Lulu not there to help out means that Array, even though he gets a kill, now misses out on this entire wave.
But I will still say this shows the prowess that Array has been building up for himself throughout the season. A great look to still turn around at what would normally be just completely lost.
Yeah.
You get nothing. You lose the plates in bot lane. You lose the kill. You're put so far behind. At least he gets the gold from taking one with him.
Yeah, I mean, sounding like Gene Wilder there. You get nothing. Good day,
You
sir.
get nothing. Good day, sir.
And now, Golden Guardians, right, they're coming in. Mia, you know, with this roam mid lane, will come back as Tactical starts to actually take some of this CS. And so, you know, it's a better roam timer coming through, showing a bit more familiarity with the role as well. As we should expect, Mia has been playing this position for longer. But that's something where Golden Guardians do need to be a little bit careful about a lot of these roam timers. And Leader and Takeover at the same time, with both supports coming mid, neither of them have had a big impact just quite yet.
Not yet, but they're both level 6. This is the time when we usually see both Sylas and Akali try to tag up with their junglers. Look for plays elsewhere. Bot lane is looking like that's where the fire is going to be this entire time. Everyone fighting, because we go to the top lane, just briefly. I do want to talk about this, because it is a very fun matchup, even if we're not seeing action, because of the two players, Concept versus Soul. Soul is a big fan of Concept going way back. Having talked to him before, said that Concept was one of the first streamers he really watched, and someone who helped teach him how to play top lane before he ever even considered going pro.
Yeah. Oh.
Acadian?
Did you get it?
Who gets it?
Oh,
I
goes
believe
to
that's yep, Anda was able to get it. There's no smite on Acadian's side. It was difficult.
But yeah, I mean, that's I didn't even know that, right? Soul has been such a, you know, he's such a fun guy to talk to. He's just
great.
very personable. He's very exciting to just kind of talk to, because he's very excited about everything. And so now going up against one of his former idols does mean that it is an opportunity for him to kind of showcase he's really leveled up his own play. It's kind of like when you watch someone like JoJo just being like, oh, time to beat up on Bjergsen, the guy that I used to be the biggest fan of.
Well, and the thing for Soul is he's always had a little bit of a roadblock, but we got to put that on pause as Leader. He's in a bit of trouble. Does have flash, but he uses perfect execution to get over the wall instead.
And now they get to crash this in the mid lane. And while Acadian has gone into the pit, he doesn't have the support of Leader for a little while.
Or does he? Leader might just solo out Anda with Ignite. Tick, tick, tick. It is picked up by Leader. This is what happens when you give him a Akali.
Yeah, without ult as well. Leader able to kill Enda, and that will secure Acadian and Golden Guardians this Rift Herald.
They already had it too. It's just icing on the cake at this point.
Yeah, I mean, Takeover and Enda, they were trying to get this pushed in so that they could go up towards the top side, right? They actually see that Viego is doing this, but Enda just not expecting the amount of damage that's coming out from Leader. Leader showcasing just a great amount of damage foresight and finding the actual kill. Most other Akali players, I don't think would have gone for that.
No, but this is the Leader we're talking about. Melee assassin mid laners. That is always what I think of when it comes to Leader. Back on the Mouse days, where he was playing in European Masters, it was always this style of champion, taking risks that no other player would really look for. Leader is always the one who's willing to try to go for those risky plays.
So we'll see how well it pays off, right? It is a position where TSM kind of falling behind, but Anda still trying to be the one that has been making these plays come through. But also Mia.
Well, there's going to be a trade in mid lane. Takeover took a lot more damage than Leader did. Now with Prismal nearby, pulled back in by the handshake. It's going to be the Takeover, stolen ult, getting a lot of damage, but still, Prismal is alive, or is he? Yes, he will survive, as Leader is low as well. With Anda here this time around, it's a lot harder for Leader to find that play. Now we go back to the top lane, and it's the teacher versus the student here. Concept and Soul. I wouldn't be surprised if we went for more kills, but wow. We're just going getting. You're not allowed to talk, Josh. It's just going to be fighting all around the map. And as I say that, I caster curses it. So now you can talk.
All right, fine. We get the first dragon actually starting up. Soul does need to be careful. This is diveable.
Yeah, it is very diveable. Got the counter strike. His Soul is very low, but was able to thwart danger for the moment while the rest of his team does secure the dragon. Now Soul flash. Gotta love those moves.
Oh, Concept taking a couple of turret shots in order to try and make the play happen. Both of them should be relatively healthy over the next couple of minutes. But Golden Guardians trying to make things happen in the mid lane. End up getting stifled quite a bit. And as a...
You missed it. There you go.
Second try.
Just a little out of range on the 5-point strike.
Yeah. And we're starting to see a bit more play coming through for TSM as they try and defend their ward. Remember, Prismal, his early roam and the dive that came through did put Array in a bit of an awkward position where he wasn't necessarily able to farm nearly as much as he was hoping to. And so now Tactical, he's got a pretty decent CS lead at the very least going up against Array. And it's not as though Saber scales poorly, right? With the new changes, the big thing you're looking for. Yeah, I mean, it changes. You have to go crit now instead of the lethality. But it also means that you are going to be happy to just wave clear into lanes like Jinx because you do the same amount of damage just at a shorter range.
Yep. And with On the Hunt, the changes it's given as well. Sure, you can get a little bit of burst movement speed. It's much more about the attack speed steroid that you can gain for yourself. It's Tactical is able to use that spell shield properly against Array. Only he's got the practice on this champion. He knows how to play it, and when it comes to the team fights, I'm really interested to see how that On the Hunt is used to try to help out someone like Anda or Soul.
Yeah, Tactical loves being aggressive. Sivir's not exactly a champion that is best at, diving forward and trying to hit the backline. It's mostly about using the ricochet to bounce between all the melee champions that Golden Guardians have picked for themselves and shredding them apart. So TSM, they're still going to be looking to do that. They are happy to take fights in the mid game, and we are well past the 5-minute mark. If we were just going based off of that, it would be a Golden Guardians victory already. But it's not as though they scale in a way that is uncontested by TSM.
Fights can get really risky, especially when you have Takeover on Silas. We haven't really gotten to see much of it just yet. This is kind of what I talked about before, where I didn't expect it to be Takeover looking for a lot of the plays initially. It was Leader that I expected, and sure enough, it's happened. Takeover just needs to get that item completed. I believe he's going for Everfrost. Once that's done, that's probably when he tries to tag team with Anda a bit more, or try to punish it here in mid lane. But they are still worried about damage that Leader does. That's why they're a little tepid on trying to force out the fight.
Little tepid. Interesting. That's not a word I hear very often in that context.
I like that word. Tepid's a good word.
Yeah. Oh.
All right. Teacher and student again, but now that Anda's here, not a fair fight for Concept. He thought he had a 1v1. He's like, what happened, dude? I thought this was an honorable fight.
We're back to tie between your bet.
And here we are with a nice use of hostile takeover. No flash. Prismal's getting a heal from Array, though, so he'll be able to get out of there.
I need to see a replay of that. I kind of looked away because I was like, there's no way he gets out of this, right? And he just walks out. That is absolutely crazy as TSM not able to secure that, but Anda trying to take over another spot. And Leader
is able to pop on the Hunt out. Gadian on the other side of the map has to answer this top lane push. But, you know, I kind of want to go into the implications that this game has. Today's been a lot of focus about the future, but I gotta put that on pause because right there, tactical, you just can't fight against leader. Anyways, going back to the point I was trying to make, we're looking towards the future with both of these teams, and I feel like both these teams, despite the standings they have had an immense amount of growth.
Yeah, we've definitely been seeing both these teams. I mean, we've been seeing a lot of teams with late game resurgences, right? Evil Geniuses, like, are the other ones that really come to mind. But TSM, I mean, there's so many different roster changes, and Golden Guardians finally getting their intended starting mid laner. You know, it feels as though they were playing with weights on this entire season, and now they finally get to play with a more consistent roster. And TSM, you know, they're having some really good moments, and I feel as though Anda has been my favorite player so far to watch on TSM. But for Golden Guardians, like, Leader has been an absolute treat, and the way that Swiper describes his contributions is that, yes, he's a good player, but also, one, he speaks great English, right? Coming from a country where they teach it as a second language, and also just his willingness to be very proactive in the VOD reviews and helping lead the team to decide how they want to play going forward has been part of why Golden Guardians has felt more cohesive as a team.
And also why we're seeing that they look so just better in general from this past week. You talk about more cohesive, and I think just their skills are starting to skyrocket, like right there. Gaden felt confident enough to go for the play on Amia. They force out a flash, and they force out a couple things out of TSM so they can gain control of it.
Yeah, I mean, but here's the wave clear coming through. The minions don't quite all die, and so the first turret goes down. Golden Guardians have control of the bottom side of the river. The next dragon actually spawning. TSM going to struggle to get in. They're still waiting on a lot of mythics to come through, right? Soul most of the way there. Takeover still not completing his Everfrost, or the Crown of the Shattered Queen. Actually close to try and avoid all the bursts.
That makes sense, honestly. I think I like that just with how low range. It's hard to get that crown off of Takeover unless it's Jinx poking out. For the most part, though, that should give Takeover a bit more time to try to destroy the backline, especially getting on top of Array.
Yeah, it's not a large window, but every little bit helps.
Every little bit helps.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, it's not the easiest thing to peel off.
Oh, but mid lane, Tactical taking a lot of damage, dodging away from the hostile Takeover. Tactical still alive, and there's Takeover into the backline on Array.
Nice.
Array's got no escape. Takeover takes him out, and using the perfect execution he stole from Leader. Wants to dive, wants more kills, but they have to get out of there as Prismal will be chased down by Soul.
Another couple of kills getting picked up by TSM. Both Array and Prismal caught out at different parts of the fight, and TSM, well, they lost the Infernal Dragon. Will be picking up the Rift Herald. It just feels like watching Takeover, right? This is a player that I've had a lot of mixed opinions on, because early on, he was looking really, really good on all of these melee champions. And we were asking if he could play a lot of the mages as well.
Okay.
And is caught.
And is caught, and look at the stun on the other side on Soul. Concept looking to fight, but nice! Gnar ult in the wall against his friend, but he's low. Now it's Concept who is in danger, jumping back with Leap Strike. Then it is the gain of TSM with the eye in their inventory.
They get the Rift Herald, but they don't get any of the kills, right? TSM still looking a little bit disjointed in their willingness to take the fight. But we'll take another look at the mid lane play. And here, Array and Prismal, they think that they have a play going down, but look at how little damage Arcadian actually does to Anda and go back to top lane.
Top lane, Concept fighting against Takeover. Gets hit by the God of Duck, so he had to flash. Takeover, the Silas. It's pretty much the factor now that TSM have to rely on as being their true carry.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the best champions that Takeover plays, right? He's been willing to blind it a lot more recently. In Academy or like?
In Academy.
Okay, yeah, I'm down with that. He's definitely been looking quite good with his ability to move in and out of fights. One of the things we've been missing, though, is it feels as though he's not been going for the same kind of plays recently, right? As the one surviving member of an absolutely tumultuous TSM season, and as the developmental member, you know, you can kind of use this to be a bit more limit testing, to try and kind of be the carry. And so that's something that I'm hoping he tries to take up the mantle this game.
You talked about Golden Guardians and how tumultuous their season has been with all the roster swaps. TSM, right alongside Takeover being that big point that they're trying to build around their development. Same with Soul. Those two players that they want to develop for the future. means that they've had to play a lot of new styles, and with Leader on the other side, it's difficult for them to really deal with because you can tell they are too afraid of getting dove.
Dove is bad.
Oh, wait a minute. Leader, he's a bit far out, but he is still alive. Hostile takeover connects onto 2. Concept pulled back in by the handshake as well, but he gets a leap strike away with the pillar put on. So there is no retreat. They've got the damage. Leader escaped, but he left Array out to dry. And without your Jinx, the resets aren't there. Flash over the wall. Takeover is able to get the flash out of Leader, but they want Acadian. They want the lane. They want the turret. They want whatever they can get away from Golden Guardians. Golden Guardians still are alive, getting out on the other side of the map. It will only be the 1 kill that is secured by TSM, but they got the turret as well.
The funny thing there is if our players were a hive mind, you definitely would have seen Acadian go down there because you could tell Soul and Tactical were not ready for Acadian to be thrown towards the mid lane, but I love this play immediately coming through as TSM try and catch out multiple members. And the big thing, right, with Sivir is they are so fast they can actually make this catch happen because they have the slows. Array with no flash is easy to pick up and take over. While the play doesn't work, I love the fact that he's going for it. That's the original takeover I remember seeing and wanting to see more of.
He's got himself 2 kills because of it. On the other side, Golden Guardians started off with a pretty good lead, especially around Leader, who's still got the 2 kills that he lords. I mean, that's even lord. It's equated by takeover with a Hextech Rocket Belt in his inventory. But it feels like the rest of the team is starting to collapse a bit. They're not finding these plays. So Acadian now in mid lane looking for Tactical. They gotta be careful. That's Leader getting bounced around. The flash away from Acadian, but still it's gonna be the kill picked up on one side with everyone chasing down Acadian. They got the kill for the troll with Leader barely escaping, or does he? There's 4 members here. There's no TP from Concept. It's got on the minions. So all in all, in a 4v5 fight, it's only gonna be a trade of 1 for 1.
The takeover still has to be a little bit careful. TSM are the ones with control around this upcoming dragon. And they also have Andam. His smite is down. Golden Guardians probably don't know that, but TSM still with control should be able to pick up another objective, and the game remains rather even. And I gotta admit, Magical, we gotta look back at our veterans, but the teleport comes through, they're not conceding.
Concept is gonna be here. Rocket spots it out. They could try to smite here. Leader! He steals it away! There's not gonna be the second dragon for the side of TSM. Instead, they're the ones that are getting hunted down. A nice hostile takeover might save the life of Anda, but right.
Yeah, and didn't have smite that entire time. There is no way for him to secure that. And TSM, they allow Leader to get a little bit too close. Great steal coming in from Golden Guardians, and Leader 3-0, grabbing the dragon for themselves is definitely showcasing why he was picked up. But as we look at this again, you know, it's a spot where they're trying to control this area, but they just concede so much space. They don't burst at the same time, and Golden Guardians just rout them.
Well, on Dragon. That's how low it was when Leader threw out the 5-point strike.
Yeah, there you go. Good stuff coming through, right? But that's the danger of trying to go for these objectives when you don't actually have a smite. It doesn't matter if the jungler is alive or not. It's a summoner spell that actually matters. And so, you know, we'll get back. If Tactical makes the same mistake, we'll look at it again. But at the same time, we have to pivot our attention towards the top side of the map, looking to control around the Baron. We've been seeing a lot of people solo it with their buds. And now TSM looking at Concept.
Concept knows that there's a ward right there. He'll clear out that ward as well. He's been playing very cautiously, looking at where the rest of his team is.
There they go.
He's a leaf strike over, but that's a blast cone. Concept has flash, could get back towards the minion. Nice pillar, but it interrupts. It's a little bit disjointed between Anda and Takeover.
You can tell that they were both thinking the same thing, and they went at the same time, but now Golden Guardians have a flank with Leader.
Look at Leader. Looking for that backline. Looking for Tactical without a turret to save their lives as well. They get the stun onto Leader, but he's in the Twilight Shroud for now. Diving into the backline with first execution. Getting that pop out of Takeover as well. But Soul, as you talked about, once he goes Mega, it's going to be risky. Diving in. Gnarled onto Acadian. Acadian flashing away, but he's followed up by Takeover. Takeover wants it so bad, and he'll find a kill. Executing Acadian. Looking for Concept as well, but Avocado Duck does not connect that time around. Concept will be able to limp back towards his turret, or will he? TSM are hunting. They've got the pillar out of Anda, but instead they'll just take that turret. It will be traded for a tier 2 mid.
Great stuff from Soul. Honestly, that's a tough angle to get that Gnar ultimate off, and Golden Guardians a little bit in disarray, but they end up picking up the mid lane. And so they will be trading a fair amount of gold back on the map. And TSM, despite the fact that they make a play, don't get a whole lot of benefit out of it. The gold lead remains about the same. It's only about 500 between the two teams. And the 9th and 10th place team, it feels like they have leveled up so much in terms of where they were earlier in the season. It feels like a tragedy that they're currently playing for last place.
It does, but that's the great thing about Proving Grounds, the great equalizer. While you might have to play in a play-in, a best-of-3 do-or-die situation, there's a lot that you can prove in just that one series. You can prove that you're a team that can run. We saw 100 Thieves last time around be in the bottom 4, yet make it all the way to the grand finals.
And now as we consider where Golden Guardians can be again, I'm copying Swiper. He said it. He thinks Golden Guardians Academy can make a top 4 run. My current top 4 is pretty well known. Golden Guardians, not Golden Guardians, Team Liquid, 100 Thieves, Cloud9, and then maybe FlyQuest after that. But if Golden Guardians are going to showcase so much more control over the game, if they don't make some of the mistakes that we've been seeing, right? I keep going back to Array getting dove at the beginning. That'll allow them to play much better. And we're seeing Prismal, he's not on this limit testing champion. It gives them a much more stable way of trying to play the game. And now Array, he's got the buffs and he can start frontlining.
Gotta be careful, because we already talked about how easy it is for Takeover to dive. Nice penalty that time. The flash away, though. Leader into the backline. Looking for Tactical. Take it so low, but they got it at least rooted for now. Perfect execution away, but Leader is so low. Birdie to ignite. The dive in from Soul. 3-man Gnar. Oh, there's Acadian, the first casualty in the fight of the rampaging Takeover. Concept does get the stun onto Anda, but they can't chase down anymore. They're already too far back, and they don't even have a leader here. He had to recall.
Soul's Gnar ultimates have been fantastic this game, but TSM, they have to give up so much space. They don't take down Leader, and he's presenting so many problems already for Tactical. Tactical has to continuously kite backwards because he can't auto-tech. He doesn't have the tools. He doesn't have mobility other than running away, and he relies on so many of his teammates creating space for him in order to actually keep Leader off. And TSM, it means they're going to be a little bit late as the rocket goes through. Golden Guardians thought that TSM were doing the Baron.
They were scoping it out, at least making sure they weren't on the objective since Acadian had only just respawned. All these members are going to start piling in around it. Leader was blocked by the pillar, but he was able to walk around it. 5v5, dance around Dragon. This could be soul point potential for Golden Guardians. To even it up, TSM are the first ones on the call, and they will take it quickly.
And you can't really aggress into a Silverman. When you have this many melee champions, she will tear you apart. Tactical has done a good job staying alive for the past several fights.
Nice pillar, but it was good lead strike away from Concept. Bonk, bonk, bonk. Did a lot of bonks in this game. As now, it looks like we might have another dance, but around a different objective, around control for Bear.
Yeah, Takeover looking for this flank. Tactical a bit far forward.
Concept has to use counter-frag pretty early, so he wasn't able to get the stun. That's going to be the engage coming in from Takeover. Soul, he's about to go mini. Does not have that capability to dive into the backline anymore.
Tactical.
It's Leader who is able to get Tactical. Bailout will not help his life. They already got the assassination out of Leader, who's now fighting against Soul, but he's got to be so cautious. He's dead. Soul was able to slay the beast, while the rest of the team still kiting it out. Rocket connects, but only on Mia. Looking for any further damage. Anda tries to escort the rest of the team out.
Yeah, TSM not going to be taking any half measures, but they just allowed Leader and Concept to come in from a flank, and Array stays alive. They don't have the dive tools to actually pick him up through the Lulu. And to TSM, a little bit too far, but watch this, right? You just force Concept out, you think you see an angle, but then Leader's like, okay, well, I'm going to kill your AD carry. Thank you very much for leaving him all alone. And even though he flashes the wall, doesn't have any HP left, right? He's already had to use the bailout, and it takes Soul almost dying in order to pick up Leader on the backside.
But he didn't. So it ends up being purely a one-for-one trade with shutdown gold picked up by Soul. He now has his own bounty on his head.
He's got the 2 items completed. The Chainsword is done, but TSM and Golden Guardians, 28 minutes in. still looking for their opportunities. It's so much about like how well Tactical and Array can hit, because the crazy front lines kind of cancel each other out, right? With how much power they both have, how willing they are to just stand in the front line. Tactical has been trying to do his best. He tries the front line.
They even got the battle song on the other side. Here's a TP from Takeover, but Concept got a lot of the attention there. Acadian in the Shroud, waiting it out. Leader is able to rotate back up as well. Looking for a bit of damage on his soul, but he doesn't want to dive in just yet. He's about to go Mega. That would be risky, even for Leader standards.
Golden Guardians shoved out, but there's no objective on the bottom side for Golden Guardians to lean forwards, and they do have to be careful because TSM does the Baron relatively healthily and quickly.
As they look for the fight, they get a bit of damage out of it. Concept re-engages, but he's knocked back away, and here's Leader into the back line. Wow, Gross on top of him. Can they find executions? Yes, they can. It's Tactical first. Well, Takeover trying to do the same to Prizzle. He finds a fight. He finds a kill. Array slain, shut down by Anda as Leader has to fight back and help the team, but everyone is about to be slain. TSM find the fight, even with Acadian grabbing the souls. He's got to be a hero, an absolute monster if he wants to turn this around, but Soul is truly the monster.
Who cares about AD carries, man? Tactical is the first person to die, and TSM still win the fight. They just brawl the entire way through. But this 5-man wild growth from Brismal allows them to have so much control of the fight. But because that was so much of their power budget being used to take down the AD carry, Soul gets to come back in and still undeterred, so healthy throughout the entire fight. And Takeover, there's not enough grievous wounds in the world to prevent this man from just staying in the fight for forever. And we are just seeing how much pressure TSM have on these fights because Array hasn't been able to get his resets.
And during the replay, TSM grant themselves the Barons off. Great takes and great turnaround out of TSM, where this game was nearly dead even in gold all the way up until that fight. Now we see it starting to balloon for TSM. And they've got gold in some right places, being normally what you'd think the Tactical, the one that you really wanted on. More so the fact they've got this lead for Soul in these side lanes.
Exactly. Soul's been looking quite good. Concept on this Jax has not really found his way into the fights, has not really created a lot of pressure with split pushing just quite yet. And while he will continue to get stronger, it feels as though he's not been able to create a lot of pressure because Soul has had his number. Soul will now walk over to match him. Takeover. Gets the ult.
Steals away for execution from Leader. But you know, I was looking at the build. And look at Acadian. Not the typical build we've been seeing with the Blade of the Ruin King, Sunfire Aegis. Instead, going for the Frostfire Gauntlet with the Chempunk Chainsword.
I mean, he doesn't create a lot of pressure up against a lot of these members, right? He can't afford to be building squishy.
True. Got a good point, and now Leader taking a lot of damage from Takeover. That crown really is paying dividends, where he can just go in, trade initially with Leader, and then get out with barely taking any of his own.
Yeah, exactly. Because Takeover, as you called out earlier, there aren't a lot of ways for a Golden Guardian to pop the crown. He has a lot of choice on when it gets used. And we are seeing him be very aggressive in his fights. He is trying to make plays on this character. That's why they picked it first for him this game, right? In order to create pressure, in order to put Leader in an uncomfortable position. It's not just a pick that Takeover is good at. It's also one of Leader's best champions. Opting into the skill matchup, Takeover's been doing a good job.
It's great to see from both mid laners, though. Leader is still in this game. Got himself 3 items with that voice staff completed to be able to burst through someone like Solar and a bit more efficient.
But the Baron buff is still ticking. About a minute left. We see 2 lanes of pressure already coming out from TSM. So difficult for Golden Guardians to engage, but you can just hit Anda for free sometimes.
And he can get hit for free, but he's still tanky. And he should be able to, once these jungle camps start popping up, or if he wants to, as he's doing so, TP back home and get back into this game, and will heal up really quick.
Yeah. This is the last wave for TSM with the Baron. They did a decent job. They still have 5,000 gold, but they weren't able to get the top lane turret. They weren't able to open the base, and so we are back to a position where Golden Guardians aren't necessarily as worried about the split push, right? Even though Concept hasn't been creating pressure in the side lane, Soul still is looking to do the same. He's been very impactful in team fights, right? Fantastic ultimates, consistently able to find his way in, still deathless. But it's
Only one
about
on his team.
it's array. It's array and tactical, right? So much of it is if they are allowed to hit. Soul has tried to disrupt array. Takeover and leader consistently trying to disrupt the opposing AD carry. Neither AD carry has been able to free hit this entire time, but if they ever find that pocket of safety, it's a devastating team fight.
At this point, I feel like Tactical is just bait that's dangled in front of Golden Guardian saying, leader, look at him. You want to kill him, right? And then Takeover's like, I'm going to do the same to Array, and it's going to be even better. Because I take out your Jinx, the Jinx can't get that free fire damage, and we can see the items concept. He's in trouble. He's got Frozen Heart, so he could survive a bit of the burst, but Soul showing up made sure that he was not escaping.
Man, the damage coming out from Takeover has finally reached ridiculous amounts, right? Just bursting through
Late game scaling.
Concept's HP.
Later.
Oh,
nice handshake from Mia. And with Tactical nearby, plus and a Soul rotating around, this is looking dire for Golden Guardians. The Pillar was able to cut off a little bit of their retreat as Leader is now in Twilight Shroud, getting in the 5-point trick where the flash is mostly what they lose. Soul is into the backline. Nor brings back in Array, and Prismal flashing over to survive, but Soul is on the hunt. Boulder will connect. TSM firmly are in control of this first game.
And Soul, I love the killer instinct that he's been showing recently. Even though it means he's been sometimes going too far, it allows him to make plays like that, picking up the AD carry, finding a 5v4 for a little while, a 5v3 rather than just a 5v4. Concept just now coming up in the base has been opened. TSM find their way in, and look at this. Tactical will be able to free hit this. As long as Golden Guardians are playing without Array, there's no way for them to go for a fight.
Now, on paper, this game would seem like it does not matter. Two of our bottom teams facing off against one another. But the growth both orgs have had with the tumultuous season of changing out players, having to sub in, they even had a coach sub in for Golden Guardians. You can see the growth they've had since then, and no longer seem like it's just a fight between the bottom of the teams. You're looking at teams that, if this was how they started off, could realistically be competing for one of the top 6 spots.
Okay, top 6. Yeah, that makes a bit more sense. These are teams that should be in their current state.
I wasn't going to say anything further than that.
Yeah, I'm the Team Liquid guy, man.
I know
they're the best team. They're the best team in Academy. Takes a swig. It's all good. But now TSM, as I start looking for another moment, right? Look at how far Concept is. TSM. He goes in.
On. Counter-Strike not going to tag anybody, but the hostile Takeover will. He jumps away, but now Leader into the back line, but they lost Array. They've lost Concept. Tactical is back in the game as they chase down Golden Guardians once more into the base. TSM will deny any hopes of a tie. They will firmly control the 9th seed going into Proving Grounds with a hot start in this series against another red-hot team where they topple the structures and commit for 9th place here, Josh.
Huge props to TSM as a whole. It feels like every single person had moments of brilliance, right? Mia doing such a good job. The number of handshakes he got onto Leader to prevent Leader from taking down Tactical were instrumental to their success. Soul, huge team fight wins. Takeover also looking to make plays that he's kind of been disappearing from for the last several weeks, coming back into the full form.
This is the TSM that I have been expecting for a while. When Mia was first picked up, a lot of people, including myself, were praising him. He was one of the components of the bot lane from LatAm with B-Voy that everyone wanted to scrim against. And then when he first played, that first week for Mia was great. Then he went to the LCS stage, wasn't as fantastic. Academy, he dropped back down to, still not the greatest. But this game, this week, looked so much better for Mia that's, I think, part of the reason why they're able to find successes for even Tactical, who struggled. He was getting assassinated that entire time, but I'm ranting too much. We got to get to a break so we can get ready for our second game, so make sure you stay tuned.